This webinar is part of an Alliant series on organizational psychology. The objective of this particular webinar is to compare and to contrast various master's, MBA, and PhD degrees, as well as to help you identify some criteria for making decisions as to which graduate program might be best for you. Okay, intersections of applied psychology and business. Most people tell me that they're very interested in entering the field of applied psychology, whether that's called organizational psychology, IO psychology, business psychology, or the like, because they are interested in helping people or organizations solve certain kinds of problems. For example, those of you who have approached me about this field say they're really interested in leadership and how to help people improve their leadership skills. Another area is work motivation and productivity. How do we get people actually to become more productive but also happier in their jobs? Another is how to improve teamwork, enhance work performance, improve communication, resolve conflicts in the workplace, and there are many other issues of interest that I would suspect that people who are interested in applied psychology and business are interested in. Now, there are many options for graduate degrees in the field of applied psychology and business. As many of you are probably have noticed, there are master's degrees, there are MBAs, and doctoral degrees. And here in this slide, I've actually illustrated a number of different degrees that are available to you. And this is not everything actually in the universe. These are just some of the most popular, the most talked about or common degrees in the field. So for master's degrees, we have industrial organizational psychology. There's some schools offer a human resource management degree, and there are other degrees like organizational behavior, which obviously seek to combine business and psychology. Another very common, perhaps the most common degree is a master's in business administration. Another big set of degrees that are offered by many schools right now are the doctoral degrees. One of the most famous or major ones is the PhD, Doctor of Philosophy in Industrial Organizational Psychology, but there are also PhD degrees in organizational behavior, leadership, business administration, as well as a Doctor of Psychology in OD. Okay, so then given all that profusion of different degrees that are out there, you ask yourself, well, how do I make a decision as to the different degrees and which one is best for me? In thinking about this myself many years ago, and also in thinking and looking about different decision criteria, here are three major factors that that people who are thinking about graduate school should really look into. The first and most important is the graduate program characteristics. Okay, take a look at those different programs. What are their objectives? What is the curriculum like? What are the career options? What are the qualities of the school, etc. And we'll go into that in more detail. The second group of criteria is called the personal factors, and this is about yourself, your values, your interests, your capabilities, your strengths, your career goals. And the third is the external factors. What's the market out there? What are the jobs available? And what kinds of careers are probably the most are expected to grow the most in the near future or even in the midterm future. So these are all important things to think about. So let me go and start with the first set because this is the most important one, and I know there are many questions around this. So what do I mean by graduate program characteristics? Okay, what I mean by this is look at the curriculum. Okay, every school will and every degree will offer what you call a curriculum, which is a defined set of courses, experiences, and requirements that are necessary for the person to graduate with either the master's, the MBA, or the PhD, or the PsyD. I'm sorry about this computer message. Next, take a look at the educational institution, the mission of the school, the reputation, and accreditation. And the third is alignment with professional associations. Different degrees align with different associations. For example, IO psychology programs are aligned with the Society of IO Psychology, which is Division 14 of the American Psychological Association. And there's another related division, which is Division 13 of the APA, which focuses on consulting psychology. These different divisions are composed of academics and professionals who are in these specific fields, and they also have a major influence in guiding the curriculum, providing information and guidance as to what schools should offer in terms of content. Okay, so let's start with the most common one, which is the MBA, the Masters in Business Administration. I start with this particular degree because most people, this is perhaps the most common graduate degree, most people are interested in pursuing business, who want to work in organizations. This is the most common. And it is true that MBAs offer some courses that have an intersection with psychology. Okay, so on this slide you will see the most common typical courses in an MBA curriculum, everything from accounting to finance. Then you have at least one course in organizational behavior, or perhaps an elective in leadership. Then you have other functions of business management, such as marketing, technology, operations management, strategy, business and government, macroeconomics, and various electives, which could, by the way, include human resource management. And typically, it's a 2-year degree. The second year of an MBA usually involves an integrative MBA project, which is not quite a thesis, but it's a more applied project. Typical careers for MBAs are a manager or senior manager or above, usually starting with a specific function. So when you graduate from business school, you might start as a marketing manager, a finance manager, in a particular function. Then you work your way up the career ladder into a more general position, perhaps as a division manager or CEO, a COO, or hopefully a COO at some point. General business manager, management consultant, as well as entrepreneur, these are also potential typical careers that people with an MBA have. Okay, the next degree is a master's in human resource management. So some schools offer this degree. I know Cornell University, for example, offers this kind of degree, a master's or even a PhD in HR, because that is the specialty of that school. Now, if you want to be a human resource generalist, really work in that function of human resource, this might be a good option for you. Some typical courses that are featured in this curriculum involve, of course, HR management, personnel selection, employment law, compensation and benefits, workplace ethics. There's usually a data analysis or decision-making course. And there are many other electives such as international HR, strategic human capital management, diversity and inclusion, etc. Now notice that the flavor of this is really intended to develop a human resource professional. So it's a very specialized area. Then another set of degrees is what you call the industrial organizational psychology degree. IO psychology is defined both as a science and a practice, meaning to say it emerges from a strong theoretical and empirical foundation from the field of psychology. It really refers to the application of psychological principles to address the various problems related to human behavior in the workplace. And these are things like the issues I mentioned before, such as motivation, leadership, teamwork, recruitment, selection, retention, organizational effectiveness, job satisfaction, communication, etc. And also stress management, occupational health, and safety. These are common themes and topics that an IO psychologist studies. One of the things to note, if you haven't already, is that IO psychology is actually one of the fastest growing areas in psychology. There's a lot more information that's provided by SIOP, which is Division 14 of the American Psychological Association. If you go to their website, there is a wealth of information about the field in general, different careers, and even the schools that offer these kinds of degrees. Within this field, there are master's and PhD degrees. Some programs are calling their degrees organizational psychology. This appears to be actually a newer development whereby the notion of industrial psychology is deemed by some to be sort of a thing of the past. When you think of industrial psychology, you're really thinking of personnel, selection, etc. Whereas nowadays, many organizations are defining the field more in terms of organizational change, human capital, executive coaching, things like that. So it's actually the term it seems to be evolving from IO psychology towards organizational psychology. So when you hear IO or OP, they're pretty much the same thing, but different schools will offer different flavors to the curriculum. Now, the field of IO psychology can open many doors to different careers. As I mentioned, organizational consulting, I think most IO psychologists are either internal or external consultants who help managers either within organizations or across different organizations to deal with human behavior related problems. There are many careers in HR, in management. Some of us teach, like myself, and others work in applied research. Here's another link at the bottom of this slide. There's another link here which gives you more information about SIOP and different careers. If you go to this website, you will be able to get more information about careers in IO psychology. Typical curriculum, and this is typical of our field, and what I have here in 3 different buckets or categories are what we have in Alliance curriculum. Okay, in IO or organizational psychology, as we are calling it now. You will have a group of theory subjects, methodology, as well as intervention or applied courses. Now, the theory subjects obviously focus on psychological principles and other related social sciences, such as social psychology, leadership and management, cultural diversity, work motivation, and productivity. But the curriculum also offers a strong dose of methodology, such as advanced statistics, qualitative research, survey, guided feedback, and psychometrics. Within Alliant, because we are very practitioner-oriented, we develop basically people who go out and work in the field. We do have a few alumni who go into academe, but the majority of our of our alumni actually work in the field within organizations or consulting firms, and we offer a lot more applied courses, things like consultation and facilitation, talent staffing and selection, professional communication, organizational development training, and team design. These are just among the things that you will find in an organizational psychology curriculum. Now, some of you might be wondering, well, what's the difference between a master's and a PhD? Well, the easiest answer, but perhaps the most incomplete, is that the master's program is a 2-year program. The PhD program is typically 4 to 5 years in the making. And although within Alliant, most of the first 2 years of coursework in the master's program are shared with the PhD program. However, the PhD program includes more units on research methods and statistics. There is a requirement for a second-year master's thesis, as well as a dissertation in your 4th year. You take advanced electives because you have a longer developmental period. There is an opportunity to specialize in a particular concentration area, and you are required to have more internship hours, which will prepare you for the work in the future. Now, many of our PhD graduates tend to pursue organizational consulting work, which includes working for external consulting firms or putting up their own shops as independent consultants. Many PhD graduates also work in coaching, selection, and assessment, as well as teaching. Okay. In contrast, many of our master's graduates actually work as internal consultants. So many of them work, for example, within human resource management, within organizational change and development, or training and development. They work within organizations as internal consultants. And some of them do work as external consultants, but most of the PhD grads, at least in my experience, tend to do more of the external consulting work. And this includes working for companies such as, Price Waterhouse, Accenture, within their IBM consulting, within their human capital or change management practice. All right. I mentioned earlier that for the PhD programs right now, we have actually, at Alliant, we have actually redesigned and improved our PhD offerings to have 3 different concentration areas, and it's possible more concentration areas could emerge in the future. But at the present time, these are 3 major concentration areas that PhD students can elect to specialize in. One is strategic human resource management, and this features additional courses in strategic management, human resource management, and training and development. This is particularly interesting for people who want to work in the field of HR management and perhaps become a director or a vice president of human resource management within a medium to large organization. Coaching, some people really want to become a management or executive coaching, and as a result, within their concentration, they take courses in leadership assessment, executive coaching, of course, and conflict management. Others are interested in consulting psychology, and this field actually is an even more in-depth version of executive coaching. They build on the executive coaching concentration courses plus additional 14 units and a special internship supervised by a licensed psychologist. And the goal of this is to become what we call a consulting psychologist who is potentially prepared to take the licensure exam in psychology. Okay. Now, one of the questions that came up that one of you have is, do you have to pick a concentration? Yes, at some point you will have. You don't have to do that when you start the program, of course. Usually, this may happen in your second year. As you begin to get to know the field a little bit more and get to be clearer on your own preferences. So eventually, yes, you will select one of these concentrations, and it's also but this doesn't mean you cannot take the other courses. You can take the other courses, of course, as electives. All right, so let me move on. What are some of the careers in organizational psychology? This is one of my favorite slides because it really shows you some diversity of careers as well as the achievements of our Alliant alumni. So here is just a partial listing of what our alumni are doing out there in the field. So they're scattered in various organizations and industries such as ABC Television, Accenture Consulting, Best Buy, City of Hope Hospital. We have professors who teach in different schools such as the Chicago School of Professional Psychology, Digital Insight. Disney is a large employer for our students here in Los Angeles. HealthNet, IBM, Jet Propulsion Labs, Kaiser Permanente, Mattel. I mean, this is a wonderful range of industries, organizations that our alumni are working in. Now, let me go to another option, still another option. Aside from the PhD in IO psychology or organizational psychology, there is another kind of doctorate out there called the PsyD in organization development. Okay, an organization development is a field that represents what you call a value-based approach to systems change. And what I mean by value-based approach is that it is not just a change management as business people define it. It really has a humanitarian base, meaning to say that you think of change and really try to approach change by using humanitarian values such as choice, such as empowerment, such as participative management, respect for the individual, etc. And organization development has a very multidisciplinary curriculum. So it does feature some psychology-based courses, but other courses as well that might be based on anthropology or sociology and business management. So some of the courses that PsyD and OD students would take could be things like organization change and development, process consultation, leadership and management, organizational ethics. And of course, they do have to take some methodological courses such as principles of research design or paradigms of inquiry, so more qualitative research. The program, as it is offered in Alliant in the Fresno campus, targets mature working professionals. So whereas, for example, an MBA or a master's or PhD in OrgPsych features, tends to attract younger individuals, although we do have working professionals, more people who are in this OD program are mature or older working professionals who want to develop their careers in organizational consulting. Does the job, so one of the questions this is a good one, Michelle, does the job outlook change between the PhD and the PsyD? And it's hard to say. There is quite a bit of overlap in the PsyD and OD and the PhD in org psychology. However, I would say that the IO psychology field tends to be a little broader in terms of career options. The biggest overlap is that the PsyD in OD and the PhD or master's in org psychology both prepare you to work, for example, as organizational change consultants. Okay, all of you will take similar courses in managing change. However, within the field of IO psychology, you also develop other skills such as selection, psychometrics, talent management, work motivation, rewards, compensation, HR. These are things that are more emphasized in the IO psychology programs and could potentially open the door to other types of careers. Other schools also offer another degree called the Master's or a PhD in Organizational Behavior. Okay, within Alliant, we only offer a Master's in Organizational Behavior at the Fresno campus. We do not offer a PhD in Organizational Behavior. However, other schools do. Okay, I really want you guys to be very much exposed to all these diversity of degrees that are out there, whether or not we offer them at Alliant or not. Now, what does a Master's in Org Behavior feature? Well, as it is defined, it offers courses that are centered around developing managerial skills. Okay, so some of the courses that Masters in OB, as they call it, include things like organizational theory and systems, organizational ethics, org behavior, fundamental and international perspectives, conflict management, etc. The Los Angeles campus, let me answer, I think it was Melissa, who does have a question. This degree, the Master's in OB, is offered in the Fresno campus of Alliant. All other campuses do not offer this degree. Instead, we do offer, as I mentioned, the Master's in Organizational Psychology. Okay, there is some overlap. However, it's, as I said, the Master's in Organizational Psychology features more of the psychology-based courses. Okay, what are some careers that are related to org behaviors? People who take this field, especially those who finish with a PhD, also go into consulting, human resources, strategic planning, general management, or teaching and research. Those people who take PhD in OB, as I said, not offered in this school, but actually offered in many other universities within their business school. Many of them go into the academe, actually. Many of them teach and do research within general management. Okay, here's still another degree for you guys to consider. It's called the PhD in Leadership. Okay, this is a relatively new degree program, not just within Alliant, but also within the field in general. I think it's really just gotten some traction in the last 5 to 7 years, where the PhD in Leadership targets people who are typically already very experienced leaders, and these people want to further develop their hard and soft skills of leadership. So these people want to develop want to graduate with the PhD, but at the same time still maintain or enhance their enhance their careers as senior leaders within their organizations. So the PhD in Leadership tends to have a multidisciplinary set of courses. So it features courses in IO psychology, but also courses in management, international relations, etc. Okay, so a PhD in Leadership is usually a 4-year degree program, which features the courses I mentioned here, such as OB, strategic management, HR management, various types of leadership seminars and electives, and some methodological courses. And a dissertation is required as well. So currently, the PhD in Leadership is offered in our San Diego campus. Okay, so I may have already inundated you with a lot of information about so many different programs. So how do we begin to make sense out of them? Okay, so here's an attempt to compare and contrast the programs actually, because you'll probably notice so much overlap in terms of the courses that people take and some of the careers that people go into. I'd like to focus more on contrasting these programs. So MBA programs, the first one I described, MBA programs generally seek to develop functional managers as well as entrepreneurs. Okay, this is a 2-year degree program that really is meant to enhance a person's skills and level of preparedness to take on managerial positions within organizations. Now, HR programs are much more specialized than business management programs. They are really focused on developing your knowledge of personnel, of HR, in specific topics such as compensation, selection, labor relations, etc. Okay, so your goal here would be to become an HR professional. Then you have the IO, or Organizational Psychology Master's and PhD programs. These are aimed at developing organizational consultants who work either internally within organizations or who consult to different organizations on a variety of issues, which could include talent staffing, training and development, organizational change management, strategic human resource management, etc. So IO, or OrgPsych, is broader than the HR programs that I mentioned before, and one of the advantages is that the IO psychology programs are theoretically and empirically grounded in psychology. So if still retaining an identity in psychology is important to you, as well as the discipline of the scientist practitioner approach of this field, then this might be something for you to seriously consider. Then we go to the master's and PhD degrees in org behavior, or OB. As I mentioned, this is more of a management related degree. It features a study of theory and research in management and organizations, and most people with this degree either become consultants or management professors and researchers, especially if they have a PhD. Then we have the PsyD and OD. As I mentioned, this is an interdisciplinary field. It also produces organizational change consultants. I think one of the things which I may have not mentioned as much before is there's a tendency of PsyD and OD to focus a bit more on qualitative research and using qualitative research in understanding managers and organizations, which may be a contrast to the more quantitative or mixed methodology of research that are featured in the IO psychology programs. And this is not to say, may I emphasize, that one kind of research is more important than another. However, it's just that, you know, in the history of psychology, there has been a slight bias towards the use of quantitative methods as opposed to qualitative research, although this is actually slowly changing. Finally, we have a PhD in leadership, and as I mentioned, this is geared towards working professionals who wish to occupy and advance in their careers as senior leaders in organizations. So some of the people who graduate with this degree might already be or want to become deans, principals, you know, presidents of government agencies or non-for-profit organizations or for-profit organizations. And these are people who really are serious in developing their knowledge and competency in leadership. Okay, so, and then also that was all about the degree types. But what other factors should you consider as you think about the program in the school that you want to enter? Well, here are 8 more factors about the program that I want you to think about. Look at the mission, vision, and reputation of the school. Is this a school you will be proud to be associated with? Does the school have values that you resonate with? Look at where the alumni work. Then consider whether the university is more of a practice-oriented university or more of a research-oriented university, because the way you will be taught, the way you will be developed will be different. For example, a professional practice university will focus more on developing practical skills that you can use so that you, as a professional out there, working in the field rather than teaching about it or doing research. This does not to say that you don't learn research, you will, except that the focus and the frame and the applications might be different. Fourth, take a look, of course, at the faculty credentials and their faculty interests to see if there's a match with your own interests. Fifth, look at accreditation, linkages with different professional associations. You want to look at course schedules and campus locations to see if that's a good fit with your own personal requirements. So for example, Alliant, as a practitioner-oriented school, does understand that our students are, many of them are working professionals. So in many of our campuses, we have courses that are offered in the late afternoon or evening, some on the weekends, and increasingly we are using what we call hybrid courses, which are classes that meet in person for a proportion of the time, as well as online. And of course, we also have online courses. And eighth, look at the opportunities for unique experiences that are offered by that particular university. What kinds of practical experiences, internships, international exposure, and other activities out there that are important to you as a student. One of the questions that the group has asked is whether it's common for working professionals to join Alliant, and the answer is yes. Several of our students work either full-time or part-time, and that is why we try to come up with schedules that will fit your needs, and that's very important to us. So yes, definitely flexibility is something we pay attention to. What makes graduate degrees at Alliant unique? Okay, I think I've mentioned some of these qualities for you. I think the most important is the emphasis on professional practice and application. So we're here to teach practitioners. We do come up occasionally with some people, some alumni who actually become professors, but the majority of them are in the field as consultants, as human resource managers, as training and development managers, executive coaches, change management professionals, etc. Our curriculum actually is carefully patterned to meet the requirements of different professional associations, such as the Society of IO Psychology and the Society of Consulting Psychology. We are WASC accredited. One of the unique things about Alliant, aside from the practitioner practice, is the emphasis on international and multicultural values. We are proud of our diverse student, faculty, and staff body, and we are constantly looking for ways to enhance the international knowledge and exposure of each and every student in our courses. We like our intimate learning atmosphere in the sense that our classes tend to be smaller. They're usually between 15 to 25 people in a class, so it's very intimate, and people get to work in teams, and the professor gets to know everyone. Flexible schedules, as well as a strong and loyal alumni network. Another thing, and I just really want to quickly touch on, is some personal factors that you should also consider as you make your decision about what courses, what degree program, as well as what school you want to join. So here are some important questions for you to think about. What are your career goals? And based on those goals, which of the programs I described fits your goals the best? What are your personal values? For example, are you more interested in managing people or managing businesses, or are you more interested in the people side of organizations? And what topics are you most interested in? Are you perhaps most interested in a specialized set of courses such as human resources, or are you more interested in a broader set of courses? What strengths can you leverage? Okay, one of the things that you might think about is your facility with certain courses like statistics. In different degree programs have different expectations about a student's facility or with statistics. So the psychology degree programs tend to emphasize, especially at the PhD level, tend to emphasize more of the quantitative approach. In other programs, might emphasize more of a qualitative narrative approach to research. So which is your strengths, what are your interests, and how can you leverage the things that you believe you are best at? Another thing to consider are external factors, particularly market demand and employability. As I mentioned, the MBA degree is the most common and the most well-known among employers, among recruiters, etc. However, be aware that there's also greater job competition among MBA graduates because there are thousands of them who graduate every year. On the other hand, the field of applied psychology, such as IO psychology, it's a much smaller field, a bit more specialized, and I'm proud to say that it was actually identified as one of the top 10 highest paying careers in 2012, and I attach actually the web link in Psychology Today for you to read a little bit more about it. But this is quite promising for our field, the fact that it's a high paying, it's probably one of the highest paying fields in psychology, and also it's a growing field. And more actually business managers are turning to IO psychologists or organizational change consultants for help because they realize that managing the people aspect of the business is perhaps more challenging than managing technical operations. But they typically learn this much later as they realize they have to work through people to get the job done. Let me also mention that both the PhD in IO Psych and the PsyD in Organization Development, these both offer good careers that are in high demand in consulting, organizational change, and leadership. And there is an opportunity because of your PhD or your PsyD to eventually go into academia if that is part of your career vision. So as a final note to this webinar, let me summarize by making a few points. The first is that you do have several options for graduate degrees out there. And my best advice to you is to examine the curricula very closely. Also pay attention to the schools and what they have to offer to you. And second is, in the end, don't worry too much about, really choosing the right degree. In many cases, actually, there is this principle called equifinality. Multiple roads can lead to the same destination. At the same time, though, that process, because it's going to be a lengthy process, it could take 2 years, it could take 4 years, it could take 5 years, depending on what you choose, which program you choose. Choose wisely. Choose the one that fits you and your values and your career goals the best. But don't worry too much. There are many options to flex the courses that you take, to make adjustments along the way. pay attention to your person program fit, and really look at what you're most interested in and which programs lead to your preferred careers. And do your homework. This is very important. I thank you actually for coming to this webinar because it tells me that you are very interested and serious about doing the preparation work required to making a very good decision about your future studies. But beyond this, I really encourage you to visit campuses, to talk to the students, the professors, to the alumni, and even attend a class. See how the class climate fits you. See if you like it. Ask people what happens in the class. Ask for feedback, informal feedback, etc. There's nothing better than really seeing a class in action to see if you believe you could be a good fit for this group. There is a question about whether Alliant is one cohort a year. Yes, Mike, you have answered this. We do, at least for the organizational psychology programs, the applied psychology and business programs, we do admit in multiple times a year, meaning to say in the fall as well as in the spring. We do admit for both semesters at this point. I want to leave you my email address in case you have any particular questions about the content of the curriculum as well as the careers in organizational psychology. I've also put Mike Giovannini's contact email here. He is the most well-versed in terms of the application process. So any questions about application requirements, deadlines, and so forth, he would be the best person to advise you. But more in terms of the content, please feel free to reach out to me. I'm more than happy to speak with you on the phone or via email, or even welcome you in one of my classes as you prepare to make a good decision about your graduate degree for the future. We thank you for coming and joining us tonight, and we wish you the best of luck in your graduate program search.